Imagine for a second that you are standing in front of a beautiful modern home. It has the perfect kitchen, a spacious backyard where your kids or your dog can run around, and that feeling of absolute security that comes with owning your own piece of the world. Now, imagine a giant hand reaches down from the sky, picks up that house, and carries it away. In its place, the hand leaves behind a pile of old coffee cups, a stack of designer shoeboxes, a slightly upgraded car lease from 5 years ago, and a collection of streaming subscriptions you barely watch. It sounds like a bad dream, right? But for the vast majority of people, this isn't a dream. It's the reality they are building every single day. Most of us spend our lives waiting for a big moment to change our financial future. We wait for the massive promotion, the lucky break, or the inheritance from a long-lost relative. We think that wealth is built in giant leaps, but the truth is much more subtle and honestly a little bit scarier. Wealth is built and lost in the tiny, invisible decisions we make on a Tuesday afternoon. It's built in the moments where we choose a temporary feeling over a permanent future. Today, we are going to talk about a single decision, a decision you might be making right now at this very moment, without even realizing it. It's a decision that feels insignificant today, like a single drop of water. But over the next 10 years, those drops turn into a flood that can either float your dream home or wash it away entirely. Let's talk about why the decision you make today will literally cost you a house in 10 years, and how you can flip the script before the clock runs out. To understand how this works, we have to talk about a guy named Scott. Scott is 30 years old, has a decent job, and earns a respectable salary. He's not rich, but he's not struggling. He's what we call comfortably broke. Scott feels like he's doing everything right. He pays his bills on time, he treats himself to a nice dinner a few times a week, and he drives a car that makes him feel successful when he pulls into the office parking lot. One day, Scott gets a promotion. It's a good one. He gets a raise of $1,000 per month after taxes. This is the big moment Scott has been waiting for. In his head, he thinks, finally, I can start building real wealth. But then something happens. It's a psychological phenomenon called hedonic adaptation, but Scott just calls it living a little. He looks at his 3-year-old car. It works perfectly fine, but the new model just came out. It has a better screen, nicer leather, and that new car smell. He figures, eBay, I worked hard for this raise. I deserve to drive something nice. He trades in his car for a new lease. That's $400 of his raise gone every month. Then he looks at his apartment. It's a bit small. He decides to move to a place in a cooler neighborhood. The rent is $500 more. Between the car and the apartment, $900 of his $1,000 raise is gone before the first paycheck even hits his account. He's left with an extra $100, which usually disappears into more expensive groceries and a few extra rounds of drinks with friends. If you ask Scott a year later how his life changed, he'd say he's still working hard, but things are expensive. He doesn't feel any wealthier. In fact, he feels more stressed because his base cost of living has skyrocketed. But here's the part Scott doesn't see. He thinks he just spent $1,000 a month. In reality, he just spent a house. To understand why, we have to look at the concept of opportunity cost. This is a fancy term for a very simple idea. Every time you choose to do one thing with your money, you are choosing not to do something else. When Scott chose the car and the apartment, he wasn't just spending $1,000, he was firing his money soldiers. Think of every dollar you own as a little soldier. Their job is to go out into the world, fight for you, and bring back more soldiers. When you invest a dollar, you're sending that soldier to work. Over time, that soldier finds a partner, they have kids, and soon, you have a whole army of money working for you while you sleep. But when you spend that dollar on something that loses value, like a car or an overpriced dinner, you are essentially taking that soldier out into the backyard and executing them. They can never work for you again. They will never have kids. That lineage of wealth ends right there. Let's look at the math, but don't worry, we'll keep it simple. If Scott had taken that $1,000 a month and put it into a simple investment, like a low-cost fund that tracks the top 500 companies in the world, history tells us he could expect an average return of about 8 to 10% per year. In 10 years, that $1,000 a month wouldn't just be $120,000, which is what he put in. Because of the power of compounding, where your money earns money, and then that money earns money, Scott would have roughly $190,000 to $200,000. In many parts of the world, that is a massive down payment on a house. In some places, that is the price of a house. But the story gets even more intense if you look further out. If Scott had kept that decision going for 20 years instead of 10, he'd be looking at over $700,000. The car Scott leased 10 years ago is now in a scrapyard. The cool apartment he lived in is just a memory. But the $200,000 he didn't have is a very real, very tangible loss. He didn't just buy a car, he traded a future home for a piece of metal that depreciated the moment he drove it off the lot. So why do we do this? Why is it so hard to see the house while we're looking at the car? The answer lies in our psychology. Our brains are not designed for the modern financial world. We are wired for survival in a world that no longer exists. For thousands of years, humans lived in environments where resources were scarce. If you found food, you ate it right away because it would spoil. If you found a resource, you used it. Saving for the future didn't make sense because the future was never guaranteed. This created something called a present bias. We value a small reward right now much more than a massive reward later. Our brains get a hit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical, when we buy something new. That dopamine hit is instant. It's powerful. On the other hand, the idea of having a house in 10 years is abstract. It's future you's problem. And here's the kicker. Brain scans show that when we think about our future self, our brains process it as if we are thinking about a complete stranger. When you decide to spend that extra money today instead of investing it, your brain doesn't feel like it's stealing from you. It feels like it's taking money away from a stranger you've never met and giving a gift to the person you see in the mirror right now. This is why wealth building is less about math and more about psychology. It's a war between your current self and your future self. To win this war, we have to understand the invisible scripts we follow. From the time we are kids, we are fed a story about what success looks like. We're told that success is a big house, a fast car, and expensive clothes. We are taught to look rich before we actually are rich. Social media has made this 1,000 times worse. We are constantly bombarded with the highlight reels of people who look like they have it all. We see the vacations, the watches, and the luxury lifestyles. What we don't see are the credit card statements, the empty bank accounts, and the soul-crushing debt that often funds those photos. We are playing a game of status signaling. We spend money we don't have, to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't even like. The decision that costs you a house in 10 years isn't usually one big mistake. It's not like you wake up and decide to throw $200,000 into a volcano. It's a series of small decisions that feel justified at the time. It's the decision to get the pro version of the phone when the base model does everything you need. It's the decision to eat out 4 nights a week because you're too tired to cook. It's the decision to pay for 5 different streaming services when you only have time to watch one. Individually, these decisions are harmless, but collectively, they are the bricks of the house you are slowly dismantling. Let's look at a different character, Sarah. Sarah gets the same $1,000 raise as Scott, but Sarah understands the psychology of money. She knows about the stranger in her future, and she decides to be kind to her. Sarah doesn't move. She doesn't buy a new car. Instead, she does something very simple. She goes into her bank app and sets up an automatic transfer. The moment her paycheck hits, $800 of that raise goes straight into an investment account. She hides the money from herself because she never sees the money in her checking account. She never feels like she's missing out. She continues to live her life exactly as she did before the raise. She still goes out with friends. She still enjoys her hobbies, but she has automated her wealth. Sarah is using a psychological trick called pre-commitment. She made the decision once, and now she doesn't have to use her willpower every month to save. While Scott is busy trying to maintain his new, more expensive lifestyle, working harder just to stay in the same place, Sarah's money soldiers are out there working double shifts. 10 years later, Sarah wakes up and realizes she has $160,000 in her account. She hasn't felt deprived for a single day of those 10 years. She just made one decision to prioritize her future self over her current impulses. Now, Sarah has options. She can buy that house. She can start a business. She can take a year off to travel. Scott, on the other hand, is stuck. He's locked into his high expenses. He can't quit his job because he has a car payment and a high rent. He has traded his freedom for stuff. This is the deeper insight. Wealth isn't about what you buy. Wealth is about the options you have. The most valuable thing money can buy isn't a faster car or a bigger TV. It's time. It's the ability to say no to a boss you don't like. It's the ability to be present for your family without worrying about how you'll pay the bills. It's the peace of mind that comes from knowing that if life throws a curveball at you, you have a catcher's mitt made of capital. When you spend your money on things that lose value, you are trading your future freedom for a temporary hit of dopamine. So, what should you do differently? How do you stop making the decision that cost you a house? It starts with a simple shift in how you view your purchases. Next time you're about to make a significant purchase, or even a recurring small one, don't look at the price tag. Look at the true cost. The true cost of an item isn't the number on the sticker. It's the price plus the lost opportunity of what that money could have become in 10 years. If you're looking at a $50,000 car, don't ask yourself if you can afford the $700 monthly payment. Ask yourself, is this car worth the $150,000 it would be worth in my retirement account 10 or 15 years from now? When you frame it that way, the car starts to look a lot more expensive, and the investment starts to look a lot more attractive. Another practical takeaway is the 72-hour rule. Our impulses are like a fire. They burn hot and fast, but they die out quickly if they aren't fed. If you see something you want to buy, wait 72 hours before hitting the buy button. Usually after 3 days, the dopamine has faded. The stranger in your future starts to feel a bit more like you, and you realize you don't actually need the thing as much as you thought. But the most important thing you can do is to automate your future self gift. Don't wait until the end of the month to see what's left over to save. There will never be anything left over. Your life will always expand to fill the space you give it. Instead, pay yourself first. Treat your savings and investments like the most important bill you have. Set it up so that a portion of your income disappears before you even have a chance to think about spending it. If you can't do $1,000 a month, do 100. If you can't do 100, do 50. The amount matters less than the habit. You are training your brain to stop being a consumer and start being an owner. Being a consumer means you are working for money. Being an owner means your money is working for you. The difference between Scott and Sarah wasn't their income. They both got the same raise. The difference was their philosophy. Scott viewed his money as a tool for today. Sarah viewed her money as a seed for tomorrow. 10 years from now, you are going to be 10 years older. That's a fact of life. You can arrive at that point with a collection of old stuff and a lot of what-ifs, or you can arrive there with the keys to your dream home and the freedom to live life on your own terms. The house we've been talking about isn't just a building. It's a symbol. It's a symbol of the life you could be living if you stopped letting your money leak out through the holes of convenience and status. Every dollar you spend on something you don't truly need is a brick you're taking out of your future foundation. So look at the decisions you're making today. Look at the subscriptions, the upgrades, the convenience fees, and the treat yourself moments. Are they really worth more than your freedom? Are they worth more than your security? The version of you that exists 10 years from now is either going to thank you or wonder why you didn't care about them. They are currently a stranger, but one day you will be them. Don't let a series of tiny, mindless decisions rob you of the big, meaningful life you deserve. The decision you make today might seem small. It might just be a coffee, a pair of shoes, or a slightly higher car payment. But remember the giant hand in the sky. Every time you choose your future over your impulses, you are putting a brick back into that house. Stop firing your soldiers. Start building your army, because 10 years is going to pass anyway. The only question is, what will you have to show for it? Will you have a driveway full of depreciating metal, or will you have the keys to a life that you actually own? The choice, as always, is yours, and you're making it right now.